Okay, this video is going to go over page 8 and 9 in our chapter 4 notes on shortcut arithmetic operators for incrementing and accumulating. And so we are looking at first of all, here in this group of operators, these are the shortcut arithmetic operators. So basically you have two operations in one. And so you have adding and assigning, in this one division and assigning, etc. Now we had this in our last homework where you were supposed to look this up and see how this works. So we should be somewhat familiar with this already. And so this is not using the shortcut. This is num1 is assigned whatever its current value is times 2. But you can shorten that and eliminate the writing or the typing of the variable twice by writing it like this. And so what this means then is the way we would read this is num1 times 2 is assigned to num1. And so again, we've been through this before, so it's num1 times 2, and then that result of that is going to be assigned to num1. It's always assigned. The assignment, some students go, well, I don't know which variable to assign it to if there's multiple ones. It's always to the one that's to the left of the assignment operator. This is always going to be the variable that gets assigned or gets its memory location gets updated. So then we can look at these. So the question is, can you read these after what we just did? And so I'll just say these really quick so we can move on. So this one right here is x divided by y is assigned to x. This one is total plus prod is assigned to total. And this one is a minus 5 is assigned to a. So that's how all those work, and we should be able to remember that and to use that. Now we take it a step up. We're going to complicate this just a little bit. And so what happens is, now instead of just being num1 times num2 is assigned num1, we actually have something else going on the right side of the operator. Now when you see something like this, once you do the first step, if you can just remember the first step and do that, you're going to be probably okay, because after that you already know what to do. So the very important first step is, when you have something that's a little more complicated like this, calculate to the right of the assignment operator. So just take this over here, calculate it first before you continue on. And sometimes for some of you, it might be important to actually rewrite the program or rewrite that line of code after calculating the right side of the assignment operator. And so in here, here's our example. So num1 is 10 and num2 is 3. So we're going to take the right side. Num2 is 3, so it's going to be 3. It's going to be 3 plus 4 is 7. So we would write this. We would take, just doing that one thing, num1 times equals 7. Now this problem, now we've done that first step, now it looks just like the stuff up here. So that's why that first step's critical. And so now you think num1, which is 10 times 7 is assigned to num1. So 10 times 7 is assigned to num1. And that's how it works. And so that means that this num1 is assigned 70. Alright, that's how that works. And so what we did then is we then went down here and did these 4 problems. So I would encourage you to go ahead and try these and then come back to the video and see what the responses were. And so what we have here is num1 is 10, so 10 plus 7 is assigned to num1. So 17 is assigned to num1. In this one, num1 is 10 and num2 is 3. So 10 divided by 3 is 3. So 3 is assigned to num1. In this one, you have 10 again and 3. And so this is saying let's get the remainder of 10 divided by 3 and let's assign it to num1. So if you remember, 10 divided by 3, and what's the remainder? You take 3 goes into 10 3 times. 3 times 3 is 9, and so you have 1 left over. You have 1 remaining, and so 1 is assigned to num1. And the next one, remember, do the right side of the assignment operator first. So 7 times num times 3 is 21. So num1 plus equals 21. So now we got 10. Num1 is 10. So 10 plus 21 is assigned to num1. So 31 is assigned to num1. Alright, so those are how those go. And you want to get good at doing that. Now we're going to go one more thing here. Increment and decrement operators. We've already used increment operators, being the plus plus, and a little bit of the decrement operator, the minus minus. Increment operator just simply means to add 1 to the variable, and decrement means to subtract 1. So num plus plus, which we've seen that, we've used count plus plus and things like that, is actually what we call a postfix increment operator. You don't have to capitalize all those, and that's because post means after, and so the increment operator is after the variable. Okay, the increment operator right here comes after the variable num, so it's post. Now this the increment operator is before the variable, and so we call that a prefix increment operator, and because the increment operator is before the variable. Now num plus plus and plus plus num both mean to add 1 to the variable. Both of them mean the same thing. And so, for instance, if let's say int num was assigned 10, well, num plus plus means add 1 to num, so num is assigned 11. It's updated to become 11. Well, let's say that you instead of num plus plus, let's say we use plus plus num. Well, plus plus 1 num plus plus num means to add 1. So add 1 to 10. Num is assigned 11. It's updated to 11. So they both act exactly the same. But are they really the same? And so we go to the next page and we find out that they aren't the same. Num plus plus and plus plus num are not the same when they are used in a calculation or an assignment or a print statement. What this does when these are used, now see up here they were used all by themselves. The line of code was simply the prefix or postfix operator. But now if you use those within a calculation or assignment or print statement, now things change and it adds one more element, and that element is not just adding 1, it is when do you add 1. That's the new element. And so we're going to discuss that when postfix operator is used. notice that the increment operator comes after the variable. So here's the variable. After it comes the increment operator. That means the variable is first and then the increment. So we use the variable first, and this will make sense as we go through an example. We use the variable first and then we increment it. In other words, we increment the variable after you use it. Increment the variable after you use it. So all you're doing is all you have to do is look at the order. Variable, increment, use it, and then increment it. And then down here is with the prefix operator, the prefix operator, or the increment operator, comes before the variable. So here's the variable. Before that is the increment operator. So, therefore, whatever you see first is what the compiler is going to do. It's going to increment the variable first. Then it will use that variable with its new amount. In other words, it'll increment the variable before it uses the variable. Now, we're going to see, you go, well, that makes no sense. Well, we're going to make it make sense now. And so we're going to use an example. So, let's say num is 10 and amount is 5. And so we've got those situated here in the memory locations, 10 and 5. And so we have the line of code amount is assigned num++. Well, we have a postfix operator, which we said means increment the variable after you use it. So we've got to use it first. So what we need to do is we're going to first get rid of that so we don't see it. Because we're not going to increment it until after we use it. We haven't used it yet. Well, what are we using this in? We're using this in an assignment. Okay? It can be an assignment, it can be a calculation, it's going to be a print statement. So now when do you add the 1 comes into play. And so we cross this out because it says increment. We want to increment after we use the variable. Well, what is the current value of num? Well, it's 10. So amount is assigned 10. So there we go. The compiler has just completed the assignment. There are no other operations going on. So now that we've done that, now we've used the variable in an assignment, and so now we can increment it. So we increment num, not amount, because the plus is on the variable num. So we increase this to 11. Alright, so num becomes 11. I should probably use the eraser. Alright, now here's the problem. The problem is I need to type this in here. Okay, so here we've typed it in, and so num is 11 and amount is 10. Now let's take the same problem, only in this time we're going to use a prefix operator instead and see what the difference is. So this says to increment first, then use the variable. Well, increment num means that we're going to change it to 11. Well, this doesn't look any different than the first one, so what's the special thing that's going on here? So, but here's the problem, is that now we're going to use num. So we're going to use it. Amount is assigned not 10, but 11, because that is the value after incrementing it. So amount is now 11. So you can see that when you add 1 makes a difference to other variables in the statement or in the line of code. And so there is a difference. When do you add? Do you add before you use it or add 1 after you use it? And that makes a difference in the amount variable in this situation. And so that is how that works. So now you're actually ready to move on to page 10 and work these problems out using the principles learned on pages 8 and 9.